accelerating generational influence. So you might have heard before the famous saying that science works by when one generation dies off, then the status quo of their ideas, because people get reinforced in their points of view and their paradigms, they don't want to give them up because they spent a whole lifetime building them up. When that generation dies, then because they become so entrenched, they control the science, they control the industry and the discipline. When that generation dies off, the new ideas can bubble up for the next generation. And you have the law of accelerating returns, which means that not only is the change happening faster all the time, but the rate of change itself is increasing, and I believe increasing exponentially. So that's why you could have what used to take 1,000 years happen in 100 years, and then what happened in 100 years happened in 10 years, and then what used to happen in 10 years happened in 1 year, because the adoption cycles, like it took to get to 1 trillion years of market cap for one company, took all of human history, which is I think a few million years. I mean, we didn't have a stock market for a few million years, but we had stock market for maybe a few hundred years. So, but to go from 1 billion to 2 billion, which is the same amount of change, it happens in a very short period of time. Apple, or some other company will get there quickly. So, and then in the future, to get to 1 trillion, like in 50 years, going for inflation, you might get to trillion in a week or a month or a day. I'm not sure how long it's going to be, but basically things are getting tighter. It used to take like decades or generations to adopt a new product because, people were isolated and we didn't have the internet. It would get picked up in one village and it might be decades or generations until it got picked up in another village or another country. There was some trade, but now things can be picked up much more quickly. And in the future, ideas will spread more and more fast, even than they do today. So, like when we're colonizing the galaxies, things can spread from Earth to Titan to, Alpha Centauri, whereas today it just spreads from Florida to Connecticut. So, how does this affect generational? So what's happening is, imagine if you were a person born 10 years ago, you spent your whole life on the internet, you don't even know what life was like before the internet. You spent your whole life, on all these other technologies. Say that you're born in 20 years, you spent your whole life in VR, you spent your whole life in nanotechnology, you spent your whole life in robotics. What kind of edge does that give you, when these platforms are just native to you from the day that you were born? They say that, the younger generations, they even swipe the TVs because they're so used to everything being swipeable. So I'm watching a conference online on YouTube, and some of these gaming sites on YouTube have tens of millions of subscribers. I mean, there's a whole generational shift that's happening now. Esports is becoming bigger than sports. I mean, there's so many different... sports is still really big, but the two are kind of merging more into a hybrid model. If you watch ESPN, they have a lot of gaming on it now. Professional esports athletes are making big money. The prize money is huge. So generationally, the summit that I'm watching on YouTube is from Chainlink, and it obviously talks about Chainlink, but all of DeFi. And so far, the panels I've watched, all the panelists are 20 years old. I mean, they don't list their ages, but they look like 20, 25. I haven't seen anybody that looks even 30 or 35. It's because the DeFi movement is such a new movement, and the NFTs and everything that's springing from it. It's a new generation of thought. Like I said before, the old generation of thought, like the bankers like J.P. Morgan, they're building blockchains, but, Jamie Dimon is not going to be coding in his basement. He's too busy, running the financial global system of J.P. Morgan. So it's going to be the kids, and I don't mean kids, in any kind of pejorative way. It's going to be the young adults of today and tomorrow that have the time to explore and develop these cutting-edge systems. So take a look at these conferences, these DeFi conferences and these blockchain conferences. I mean, blockchain is a little bit more established, a little bit more mainstream because you have IBM, you have Hyperledger, and some other big companies. But look at some of the most cutting-edge technologies, crypto being one of them, DeFi being one of them, and NFTs being one of them. And look how old these technologies that are invading the world and taking over are being fueled and propelled by very young people. And they're very knowledgeable. Like if you listen to some of these 20-year-olds, they sound like 50-year-olds because, yeah, maybe they don't understand every single industry out there, but they understand their industry inside and out and how it's converging with other industries. So the leaders of tomorrow, like they say like, 90 is the new 60. First you had like, 50 under 50, 40 under 40, 30 under 30. Soon you could have 20 under 20, and before you know it, you're going to have 15 under 15. The amount of influence that you could have as a 20-year-old, you could be a billionaire. I mean, look at Mark Zuckerberg. He, I think, is 29 or 30. He's one of the richest people in the world. Eventually, they'll say, like, if you want to understand the internet, they said at the beginning, ask your kids. So eventually, the richest people in the world are going to be younger and younger and younger because they're going to, because of the law of accelerating returns and the outsourced generational influence, you'll have a whole world of people running the world that are like 20 years old. Vitalik Buterin, or whatever his last name is, he created Ethereum when I think he was 19.